Welcome back to Urban Regenerative Gardening, where I show you how to garden without buying fertilizers, pesticides, how to seed save, how to make your own compost. Just a overall inexpensive way of gardening, and it's also really good for the environment. I'm in here today making my garlic and honey, and here's one that's done. That's been soaking for a year. And I'm gonna try raw honey for the first time here. Went down to the farmer's market and got this. And raw PA honey. And so process I came up with took me a while to figure out. But I was first few times I did it, I was very frustrated with how hard it was to get this paper off the garlic. But tried a few different things, but the thing that works the best is soaking it overnight in water. I have a Berkey water filter here that I use. I do a lot of things for my health, for like optimal health and all that, and I live in town, so I use this Berkey water filter. The top has a filter on it that filters like bad pathogens and things like that out of the water. They say you can literally just take water out of the mud puddle or water that runs off your roof, put it in here, and it'll be healthy, drinkable water underneath. But now it doesn't get the chemicals, like the town chemicals, out, so you have to get another filter that actually hangs up on the bottom to get the town water out, the town chemicals out, like the fluoride and the chlorine and that kind of stuff like that, out of the town water. So this is I use this to soak I use it for everything: cooking, drinking, anything that I'm going to ingest. So I soak it in that overnight. So it's a real good clean process here. And then I'll show you here. Show you the process here. There it is. Very easy. Try that with one that's hasn't been soaking overnight. It's not gonna happen. So that's that. And then I just get a nice clean towel over here. I dry them off. I just kind of collect them up here. Then I cut them in. I like cutting them in pretty decent sized pieces. But you can do whatever you want, you know. One thing I did notice though is with the smaller ones, like here's a small one. What I do with the smaller ones, let me show you here. I do cut this little root part off, right? But now if it's small and I just want to eat this whole thing, in order to let the garlic get into the honey to get into the garlic, I kind of scour it a little bit. The honey will go down into this. I might do a couple spots. And that's it. So now the honey over the time will be able to get into it better. So that's that. These are just little things I've noticed. I've been doing it now for it's probably like my 4th year doing it. And my garlic harvest has gotten better every year. I think I started out like first year was like 55 garlics. And then so what I do is when I process them, I put aside the bigger ones as I'm going through them. So this is all bigger ones here. Bigger garlics. And so the biggest ones I replant. So first year was like 55 garlic bulbs I had. And the second year was like 85. And then this year was 144 garlic, something like that. And this is how many I put aside so far. I'll probably bring it up to like 150 this year. Need a couple more. I'll just pick a couple more bigger ones that I have out here. And not bragging or anything, but just so you know, like with my soil that I use, my homemade compost, I've pretty much gotten 100% of these that I put in have produced a plant every time so far, every year. I don't remember seeing a spot where I put one in and I didn't get a plant. So there's that. Let's see, what else is there to explain about this process here? Oh yeah. So here I use a spring. I'll show you the process when I have to finish. I get this either anywhere from like an inch to like really close to the top, because when you put this spring in here, it pushes it down. But you do want to be able to get enough. You want to be able to get a lot of extra garlic, honey in there. Because if you don't, one year I tried to see how little honey I could get away with using, and the garlic didn't get very much honey in it, and it didn't taste that good that year. What happens is the juices from the garlic will be the dominant fluid if you try to be skimpy with the honey. So these are all things I've just learned trial and error over the years, and that's why I wanted to do a long video so I could explain all this stuff for you guys. So yeah, so I bring it up, within, maybe get it about an inch or so from the top. Fill it up. You don't have to fill it much. You want to be careful not to go too high with the level of garlic. So when I add the garlic, I'll show you here in a minute. When I add the garlic, I try not to add too much at first, because you don't know, because it settles down. So you don't know where it's going to end up. So you want it to kind of end up about an inch from the top, because the juices from the garlic will raise the level a little bit. And another thing I do is I use these lids. They have it's like a fermenting lid that lets the gases out. About 2 weeks I use the fermented lid, and then I replace the fermented lid with a regular lid that doesn't have the gassing piece to it. If you don't do that, it could build up pressure or whatnot. You want to let it, at first there's like a gassy thing that happens with the as the garlic is being pushed down, and it's leaking out the juices of the garlic into the honey. You can see it kind of foaming there and stuff. So if you don't, I don't know, I've never done it. I've just always done it this way. I imagine it could build up a lot of pressure or whatnot in there. And it's best just to leave the gases go. If you look at other fermenting videos, you'll see they use a lid, like a gassy lid, and then after a period of time, you can put a regular lid on. Go ahead and do your research on that. You'll see that a lot of other fermenting videos. So, I'll show you here the how I do the honey part. I guess I can go ahead. I'll show you the cutting up process here. When you get a big one. I did a little one for you, now I'll do a bigger one. Cut that little root part out of there. And then, depending on how big it is, if it's really big, cut it in 3 pieces, like this. And then if it's kind of a medium-sized one, just cut it in half. And if you want smaller pieces, that's fine, but I just would rather have a big crunchy piece. That's the way I like to do that. And then you can even, when it gets kind of high like this, you can kind of shake it. Made it settle down a little bit. It'll settle in a little bit if you do it that way. But now I'm getting pretty much where I like it as far as adding the honey. Okay, that's about where I like it. Pretty much see where that top ring is. That's kind of like where I like to stop there. I can add the honey now. I don't know if this has. I haven't opened this yet. Oh, it's got the ring on it. Here. That's good. We got. All right. So. Oh yeah, another detail is these jars are not your regular canning jars. You see how thin? I like it because it holds. When I put this in here, I don't have to worry about. I'll show you with the. I'll get a regular jar here. There's a jar of pickles I did. And so you see the difference. There's a regular jar, and there's, even though the lids are the same, see how it gets a little wider. I didn't want to do that with. I wanted to be able to. I wanted to be able to make sure that the garlic wasn't gonna slide out around the springs. That's why I got the thinner jars. So for me, I feel better doing it this way because I didn't want it to slide out around the ring, you know, the spring, and then end up on the surface, potentially, you know, being contaminated by the air. So this, I think, for me, I feel better about doing it this way. But you have to, these jars are a little bit more expensive and they're a little bit more harder to find. They're 24 ounce. If you look up 24 ounce mason jars, 24 ounce canning jars, that's where you'll find them. And you know the way supply chain issues are now and stuff. I had a hard time getting more of them this year than it was in the past. It was easier to get in the past. Now, this year was harder. It could just be sign of the times or whatever. I'm sure you can relate. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about when it comes to that. So, this is how I do this. Never done raw honey yet. I'm only gonna do a couple jars of raw honey because I'm not sure how. Oops. Yeah. I'm not sure how it's gonna work with the raw honey because I know raw honey has a tendency to solidify, and you know, I don't know if like the juices of the garlic are going to keep that from happening or not. This is a learning process for me with the raw honey. So here's, I don't know if I showed him. Yeah, I did kind of show over here a minute ago, but these are my old ones from last year. I did do a raw one, but this was kind of a store-bought. I put store on there, so it's not like from the farmer's market or something local. So this is like a partial raw honey kind of experiment there, but this is more of a local raw honey thing. Got it right from the Amish people, farmer's market. let's see. What was I gonna say? Yeah. This is how much I did this year so far. So, quite a bit. I did 9 of them this year. This is regular honey. This isn't raw honey. So that's the point. That's what I was going to show you. And see, sometimes you'll get one. See, that one kind of got through the crack there. So, you know. And I've done it. I've eaten them like that. And never got sick or anything. So, like I said, I just do this for extra precaution. You see a lot of, if you look up other videos on these, they don't use the springs and they don't worry about keeping it below. They got them just kind of floating free in the honey. It's just something I'm doing different. Be more cautious about it. So most of this year is going to be regular honey, and then I'm going to do a couple, maybe 3 or whatever, of raw honey. And just see if it solidifies or not. You know how garlic can do, or honey can do that. Sometimes it just become like a hard mass. And if that happens, I won't be doing raw honey. But I didn't want. The more of this I make, the more liberal I can be about what I want to eat every day. So I do now. This year I did. Let's see, last year I did something like 8, I think, 8 jars. Yeah. If I remember right, it's about 8, and I think this one might have been number 9. So, and I was able to take a decent teaspoon size, like 3 or 4 twice a day on it. Maybe 2, once some days and 2 other days. Like in one, sometimes it'd be like morning and then in the evening. So I was able to be a lot more liberal with it. The first couple of years I had to only do like, first year or two, I was only able to do like 1 little piece every day because I only had, I don't know, 4, maybe 5 jars or something. So I was being real careful with it. Now that I got more, I can just go ahead and just be a lot more liberal with it and have more of it. And there's a lot of good nutrients, and you can look up the kind of nutrition that's involved in it. It's really good for you. And is that it? Oh yeah. See, just that little bit of time there talking. Didn't even pause it or anything. See how much you can see it slowly working its way down. And you have to add more because it kind of, at first, you know, when a minute ago, you seen I had it right to the top. So, look, that looks yummy, don't it? That's because it is. Taste some of it. Yeah, it's good stuff. See the little bubbles coming up? Boop. Sound effects. So here comes another bubble. Pretty cool. Anyway, it seems like if you stand here watching it seems like it takes forever, but if you walk away, come back 5-10 minutes later, it's totally, you can't even see any of the air pockets after a while. And that's how that works. Yeah, I was just thinking, when I'm doing these, like say I got this jar down here, right? And I have this, and I got this here. That might not be enough to do another jar today. So what I'll do is, I'll go ahead and process them here like this. And I'll put them in a container like this. And put the lid on it there and put it in the refrigerator. And they keep a long time in the refrigerator like that. I mean, months really. Maybe after a few months you'll start seeing them starting to sprout in there and stuff. And one year I had some that were sprouting like that in a container. There was only a few I just forgot about. And I planted them. The next year they were like way bigger. The plant itself grew way bigger than all the rest of them. And that was just by accident. I was like, yeah, let's see what happens. Put it out in there. And the thing was like taller than me. The scape went straight up in the air and was like taller than me. And the rest of the scapes were just, you know how they swivel around and they just. So a very unusual, very unexpected, unusual thing happened there. I just like trying different things and see what happens. And then what I did with those ones, I just let the scapes just kind of dry out and just do whatever they would do naturally. And I let like the little baby garlics that form on the scape, like if you let them go, do their natural thing, the little babies will just kind of fall off. And I just let it go to see what would happen. And the next spring, a bunch of little baby garlics came up. I didn't, if I would have tended to them little baby ones better, because I had leaves. I put a layer of leaves to protect my soil because I do this is regenerative gardening, so there's no fertilizers, there's no pesticides involved, so it's all about the health of your soil and the health of your plants. So I have a layer of ground up leaves on the ground where I plant. I plant them in the fall, and then I put like 4 or 5 inches of ground up leaves on top of them. And then by the time spring comes, those 4 or 5 inches of leaves, they'll kind of settle down to like 2 inches of leaves, dried up leaves. And over the winter, these guys will just be popping up all through the winter. And you don't worry about like when the cold hits them. It looks like, oh no, the cold's hurting the garlic, and it doesn't. It just kind of, it kills it back, but underneath it still has its life under there. And soon as like March, or not even March, like I'm in northeastern Pennsylvania here, so when it gets late February and the sun starts getting strong, these guys will start shooting up. And by the time March hits, you got healthy looking. It's the first thing in your garden coming up through them ground up leaves and everything again. And so anyways, what I was saying was those little baby leaves, those little baby guys that had fallen in from the big ones that I had, those guys came up, but they were in those dried out leaves. So they didn't do well because their roots weren't into the ground. They were just forming on that dried out layer of leaves. Now if I would have tended to them, if I would have put compost around them and all that, I'm sure they would have done a lot better. So one of these years I'm going to try that. I'm going to try tending to them better. First time it got dry, they just kind of died. Hot and dry. But I'm sure if I would have tended to them, it would have done. Now, this is what I'm looking for here. See how it's... there's no more bubbles. It's really hard to find an air bubble. These little air bubbles here and there, they will go away, but before too long, they'll work their way out of it. And so it's kind of thick right now. You can even see it's still working on it. So okay. So that's what I'm looking for there. About that level. Because if you go much higher, the additional juices that come out of the garlic, the level will go up, and it'll bubble out over that there. I've had it happen where I tried to come up to here or whatever, and the additional juices that come out of the garlic spewed out and literally comes out in these little. It makes a mess. You don't want that. So, but you can get away with it about an inch. Put this on there. Put the spring on there. And I'm gonna pause it here. There it is. Once you're finished, and see how little garlic that, see how little bit of honey that took? It's surprising. This is what, 2 pounds? So, what, 32 ounces? Yeah, 32 ounces. And I didn't even use half of it. You could probably do maybe 3 jars, definitely 2, maybe even 3 jars with one of these guys. So, pretty cool. Now what will happen here is, over time, this will settle. Takes a lot of time though, like tomorrow, maybe here, next day, and then it just gets slower and slower, but eventually it'll, you know, like these guys here, I can show you an example. I like to put, when I put the tape on them, this way I know how much it settles. I'll put the tape right where the garlic, top of the garlic is. So this happened. Today is the 20, shoot, I gotta see. 28th. Yeah. Today's the 28th. So it settled basically the thickness of the tape. Like 3/4 inches or something like that. So there it is. I think that's about it. Just tried to show you all the things I learned over the probably 4 or 5 years I've been doing this. I know the first year I bought the garlic in the store, and it was pretty expensive to do. Between the garlic and the honey and the jars. The jars are expensive, and springs and all that together, and these special lids and stuff like that. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it. It's expensive to start with, but you know, once you do the initial investment and you start growing your own garlic, I'm gonna eventually have an apiary out back there, and so it'll all just be free once I get to my own bees and my own honey, or my own bees and my own garlic. So yeah, you can see I only do one take on these videos, so that's about it. So if you learned anything here, I should say it in the middle of the video. I always forget. Like and subscribe. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. See you in the next video. God bless.